Okay, good morning from Canada. My name's Joanna, if we've not met before. I'm just joining you live, and I'll just wait a few moments to make sure that people can find the live on the page. Today's session will be all about growing your business. Because we are mini businesses as yoga teachers, which I didn't realize when I started this. And I'll get into that as we go along. But yeah, today's discussion will be useful for teachers who've been practicing for a while, who are maybe ready to branch out into other avenues of teaching. But it will also be useful insight for new teachers as to perhaps what to expect along your teaching journey and things to consider as you start to build your community and start to build your reach. So I hope this will be useful. It was fun to kind of delve into, and it's something I've become quite passionate about. And I never realized that being a yoga teacher would amount to so much. And I mean that in the sense that I think I was a little naive in thinking that I would simply advertise myself as a yoga teacher, and I would reach out to yoga studios or reach out to community spaces, and I would build a teaching schedule from that. And that's kind of how it would be. And that would be my work schedule. It would be a collection of classes that I would teach in my local area, and I would move from spot to spot around the city or the town, and that would be enough. And it was enough in the beginning, and it was fulfilling, and it was satisfying, and it was challenging because I was a new teacher. I was also living in a new environment, so I was having to source spaces. I wasn't familiar with the yoga studios or where yoga could possibly be offered. So I was having to do that research, and then I was having to, go put myself out there, make connections, go to classes, meet teachers, meet studio owners, make connections to people who could perhaps lead me into other avenues, such as teaching seniors or teaching in retirement spaces, teaching in recreational spaces. So in the beginning, that was all great and gave me enough juice and fire to continue on. But once I kind of got into a pattern of teaching regular classes, I started to realize that there was perhaps more to this. And some of the teachers that I was inspired by were, I just wanted to check that you can hear me. Oh my goodness. If anyone is watching live, could you maybe just give me a thumbs up that you can hear this? Because that would be terrible if we get to the end and there was no volume. I think there is, but just in case. So then once I kind of got in this steady workflow of teaching regular classes and I was feeling more confident as a teacher, I was then looking up to my teachers and seeing that they were doing other things within their community and further out of their community that was really kind of starting to spark my interest. So I wanted to dive into how that journey's kind of evolved for me, the things that I've done and discovered that have worked, to help grow yourself as a teacher and an individual, and also to help you reach more students than where you currently are. This is just my experience, and I know there is a ton of advice and different ways and avenues to get there. So please just take what I'm saying as my own guidance and advice. If you have any other suggestions, please leave them in the comments, because it's really a communal conversation. So if you have other experiences that you want to share, please let us know. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at things you can do within your current community or studio settings. So imagining that you're already teaching either part-time or full-time, and you're starting to build your community. You're starting to recognize the people that are consistently coming to your classes. What can you do within that setting to keep your students connected, interested, and engaged, and excited to keep coming back and keep learning more? And that's not just for them, that is also for you. How can you keep challenging yourself as a teacher? How can you keep growing? So a few things that have worked for me that have been well received by my students were, first, to start offering workshops in those spaces. And the reason you want to offer workshops in those spaces is because you've already built your community. They already know you, they already trust you. They're probably interested to do more work with you, maybe go a little deeper. You might even have heard inklings from some of your students that they want to do that. They want to go a bit further. So start offering workshops in your spaces. And that could be anything. What are your students interested in? What are you passionate about teaching? For me, when I started offering workshops, I did a series on the elements, because I was really fascinated by how to integrate the elements into a yoga practice, in asana, meditation, pranayama, journaling. So I did a 5-part series on the elements. Maybe you're interested in the chakras. Maybe you offer a 7-part series on the chakras. Maybe you're interested in aromatherapy. I've done some workshops with yin and essential oils. It's called Essential Yin. I thought it's quite a clever title. And it's a 2-hour workshop this was pre-COVID, with lots of hands-on assists and essential oils. So start offering workshops in your spaces to grow interest, to deepen your community's knowledge base, and to challenge yourself as a teacher. It's a great way to build more confidence. Holding space for longer periods of time works really well. And then if those workshops are doing well in your community settings, perhaps you start to branch out and think about other spaces, maybe a little bit outside of where you currently teach, that would maybe benefit from this workshop. For example, you could reach out to other yoga studios that you might not teach in, but maybe are looking to add workshops to their schedule. And maybe your workshop is something that they could specifically get behind. So you have to do a little bit of selling, selling yourself, selling your wares, letting people know what you have going on, what you have to offer. Sorry, I've got a little frog in my throat. Okay, the second thing that I found to be super receptive by current students is offering outdoor summer classes. So again, you would collaborate with your studio owner to set that up and make sure it starts to be offered on your schedule. And you're offering outdoor park classes or community outdoor space classes, spaces where you can teach your students, but where you might start to gain a little bit of interest from passers-by. So maybe you have a sandwich board for the studio out in front of where you're teaching, just stirring up a little bit of interest to maybe start to gather some more students back into your space. That one works really well, and because it's summer, you've got the elements to play with. You can bring that into your classes, and students just seem to love being outdoors, being in nature, and practicing with a teacher that they trust. So that's a lovely offering. Another way to offer or create more interest within your current teaching setting is to look at other teachers that work in that space with you, if that's the case, and perhaps consider collaborating with another teacher and putting on special workshops. For example, the studio owner at the studio that I teach out of is a sound healer. So she does lots of sound baths, sound journeys at the studio, and she has a plethora of instruments, gongs, singing bowls, chimes, drums, you name it, she has it. So we've done some events where I've taught a yin practice and she has played live accompaniment throughout the class. And that has been such a beautiful way to bring our two special offerings together and bring perhaps some of our separate students that just practice with one or other of us together. So that's another idea. Or another way to collaborate would be to look at artists and crafters in your community to offer special events, such as a live music component. Maybe you know a pianist or a harpist or a cello player. Maybe you know somebody who does body work, like massage therapy or acupuncture. Or maybe you know somebody who could help support you in creating a goodie bag for your students. Like maybe you know a local artisanal crafter that makes wellness items. For example, like I know a lady who makes teas, dried loose leaf teas. So often I will connect with her to help support me in creating goodie bags for retreats and things, because it's a wellness item and it's local, and it seems to really work nicely with a yoga practice to offer something like that. I have a friend too who is a florist. So we have done a wreath making and yoga event. I know of yoga and acupuncture events. So again, just listening to what's in your community, friends of friends that might know someone who has this thing to offer that you think could collaborate well with your yoga and what you're offering. And maybe you could create an event either out of your current setting, your space where you currently teach, or maybe within their setting, if that makes more sense. For example, if it's a pianist, you're not going to lug a piano into your yoga studio. Or if it's a wreath making event, we did that at the floral shop because that made more sense. They had a big space where we could roll out yoga mats and create a little yoga sanctuary for that event. The final one to do within your community would be to let your students know that you are open to perhaps offering some one-on-one classes. Maybe you have some students who come to you at the end of class and have lots of questions, or they come to you and they have very specific things that they want to talk to you about within the world of their yoga practice. So maybe somebody wants to work on upper body strength or in inversion practice, or maybe somebody really wants to help improve their balance, but in a public class setting, they maybe we don't have enough time to just dedicate to that one student to give them everything that they need to reach that goal. You know, you might do a couple of exercises for upper body, you might do a couple of standing asana for balance, but you're not getting into the nitty gritty to help those students specifically reach those specific goals. So offering one-on-one classes can be a great way to build that deeper relationship with that specific student. It can help to challenge you as a teacher to create a program specifically for this student's needs. And it's something, you know, outside of the realm of your public teaching classes that can stir interest. You could even think about offering the first session as complimentary. And so then the students get to understand the goals. You get to understand the students' goals, and then you can build a program with the student from there. So that first session being complimentary is just a nice way to see if it's going to be a good fit for you both, and so that you can gain a little bit more knowledge as to what they need and start to set up a plan. Do they want to have 4 sessions with you, 6 sessions, 6 months? Like what would work? And you could obviously speak to your studio owner or the space that you host your classes out of and just check that you could put up some posters to advertise that you're now going to be offering these one-on-one sessions. And then you'd have to obviously connect with the studio owner to see what space was available within the schedule where you could host that, unless you were going to do it out of your own home or at the student's home. That would be different. Okay, I hope I'm not going too fast and this all makes sense. And I'm just checking. Everything seems okay. We're live still. Okay, good. Okay, so now I wanted to talk to you about reaching the community outside of your current teaching settings. So there's 2 ways you can approach this. One is looking at ways to be in physical space with people, and 2 is looking at online options. So we'll get into both. So in terms of physical offerings, a great place to reach a wider community would be offering to teach at local events, such as farmers markets or outdoor summer festivals or charity events. Now, these are often not paid teaching opportunities, but you can connect with a wider audience and reach people who would not necessarily come into a yoga studio off their own bat. So make sure if you do reach out to create a yoga class for one of these events, that you come prepared to those events with your contact information, and to let those who attend your class know where you're teaching and what other events you have coming up. That's super important, to make sure you leave them with something at the end, a way for them to connect back with you and maybe find their way to your current classes or find their way to other offerings that you have coming up. There's also, I haven't done this myself, but I've known a couple of teacher friends who have done this. There are companies that offer, I think they're called yoga holidays, where certified teachers can apply and teach in some really beautiful locations and hotels in exchange for their stay. So having spoken to a couple of teachers who've done this, you're usually requested to teach a minimum of 2 classes a day, usually an early morning class and a sunset class. And then in exchange for that, you get a week's stay at the location. I'm not sure if it's completely paid for or whether it's super discounted, or whether that, it depends company to company with those offerings. But that might be something that you want to do, again, to reach further afield than your current student base. That way you can build connections with other people who are holidaying in these destinations, who you never know, maybe they live not so far from you in the community. Maybe they could travel to your next retreat that you're thinking of offering. Or maybe you have some, we're going to get into it, but maybe you have some online offerings and they want to continue to connect with you that way. So that might be another great way to reach further afield, but still be in a public setting. We kind of touched on it earlier when I talked about one-on-one classes, but this is a slightly different offering. So offering private classes for current students, or advertising that you are available to teach for special events or special occasions, is a great way to diversify. So private classes do not have to be one-on-one. Currently, I'm teaching a private class to a long-standing student who wanted her partner to get into yoga, but the partner did not feel comfortable coming to a yoga studio setting. So instead, we've created this private class where it is the student that I know, her partner, and then a group of their friends. So it becomes a lot less intimidating for the partner because they are surrounded by their friends and colleagues, and it's a lot more relaxed of a setting, and they get to design the class based on what they need. So it feels very comfortable. So that's one way to offer a private class. I've also taught a private for birthdays. So like in a garden party setting, which was lovely, so beautiful. And I've also taught for a wedding party, so a bridal party on the morning of the wedding, as a way to ground and center. So again, just a beautiful way to start your day, start your wedding day. So I would suggest having posters again up in your studio space, if that is okay by the studio owner or the landlord or whoever you need to clear those things with. Advertising that is something that you are available for, and you could do that for current students, or maybe current students then have an idea to hire you for their next event, where they feel like yoga would be a nice add to what they're offering. Just a couple more for public settings, reaching a wider audience. Retreats are a great way to reach more people. Of course, when you're hosting a retreat, you are probably going to have the majority of the students be students you know, because they're the ones that are going to sign up because they know you, they trust you, they like what you're offering. So you're mainly going to get your students, but a lot of retreat spaces will also advertise your event for you on their events page, which can bring a whole new group of students to you. Now, this isn't always the case. Not every retreat space will advertise your event for you, or some will do it, but it's an additional cost. But it's well worth it, especially if you are worried you're not going to fill all your spots, or if you want to use this as an opportunity to reach more people. So retreats are a great way to connect a bit further afield. And I just wanted to talk about 2 ways that I've found really useful to advertise these public offerings. And the first one is to create business cards. Now, they don't have to be fancy. They just need to offer that little piece of connection between you and that new student. So it just needs to have your name, your services, and whatever contact information you want to give out. If you want to add a picture of yourself on the card too, I think that really helps. And always have those with you, especially whenever you teach, and especially when it's in a new spot. So all those farmers markets, those charity events, those private classes, those retreats, always have those cards with you, and always offer them out at the end of class. Another great free advertising spot is in your local area and in the surrounding areas is at coffee shops, as they often have community boards that are free for you to post on. Of course, always check with the owner that that is the case and ask before you put anything up. But I've left business cards at coffee shops pinned on the board. I've posted about retreats and private classes on the boards, because you never know. You never know who's going to wander by that board, and your offering is exactly what they need. And without it being there, they wouldn't have been able to find you. Same with community boards at public libraries or in other yoga, health, or wellness spaces such as massage therapy clinics or naturopathic clinics or health food stores even. Usually there is some community board, but always, always, always ask permission before leaving business cards or putting anything up. We're running out of time. Okay, I just had a couple more things I'm going to try and go through really quick. So I wanted to talk about online, having an online profile. So this is another way to reach a bigger audience. We know you could start your own Facebook page, your own Instagram account, your own YouTube channel, and start offering free live classes. Make sure there's always links for people to easily access other things you have to offer that they may like to connect with. So if you have a website, make sure there's a link to that, and then links to any events that you have coming up or spaces that you teach out of that people could come to. Create a website where you could start to build an online class platform where students could purchase a subscription to classes or buy individual classes, or set up a Patreon with a tier system where you could add content every week or every month. And there's also lots of online course platforms where you can create yoga courses and have them available to purchase with links to other ways people can connect with you. This can become then a passive income stream because all the hard work is done up front. You're creating the content, you're filming the content, you're submitting the course. And then once it's up and running, there's very minimal maintenance for you other than checking in with reviews, any little updates you want to make to the course as time goes by, and creating any monthly discount codes, and offering referral codes to people to keep advertising the course within your reach of students. But a lot of these online course platforms, will be advertising your course for you and will have a huge, huge reach of people. So that's a great tip. And then I just wanted to tap into something that's a little outside of being a yoga teacher. I wanted you to think about other creative hobbies or interests that you have that provide therapeutic qualities and that align with your yoga, meditation, or mindfulness practices. For example, do you paint or write or make pottery or play music or arrange flowers? Do you have an interest in aromatherapy or tea ceremonies, or do you sew? The reason I'm asking all of these is because there's endless ways to bring your creative and therapeutic interests and talents and hobbies to your students and community within your yoga environment. For example, if you sew, have you thought about making your own eye pillows or yoga bolsters or yoga clothes that you could perhaps then sell as an additional income stream? Or if you paint or draw, have you thought about hosting a yoga and arts event? Or if you play music, have you considered incorporating a live music element into your classes? I have created a small business called Honey and Bess, which is called the Conscious Collection. So it is a collection of products that are either reusable, recyclable, and are all natural. So I make beeswax wraps to reduce single-use plastic. I make bath salts with dried lavender from my garden, and the containers are refillable. I make a chakra essential oil collection, which again are all refillable, reusable bottles. I make smudge sticks with homegrown sage and lavender, and I sell these things at my local studio. And I also offer items in my classes, especially the sprays and roll-ons. I will offer them in class, but then I also will add these elements into goodie bags for retreats. So I'm branching out a little further outside of teaching yoga and adding on these little extra pieces that complement their wellness experience. And also it's another creative outlet for myself. The last thing I want to say before we wrap this up, I've been talking very quickly and I'm sorry if it's gone too fast. But the last thing that I want to say that is so vitally important to all of this, to growing your yoga, growing your business, growing your brand, is to keep learning and keep listening. So keep yourself refreshed and inspired as a teacher on this path. I cannot stress to you enough how important that is. And firsthand, I've had moments where I have dropped off going to public classes myself because I was in a place of burnout and exhaustion and just needed to step away from the yoga space and be somewhere else. When I did that for too long, it really affected my teaching. I felt like my teaching started to get stale and stagnant. I was not inspired. As soon as I stepped back into going to public classes, it all came flooding back. So keep going to class, keep taking classes, keep taking courses, keep reading, keep listening to podcasts, connect with groups who share common teaching experiences or have similar teaching ambitions to you. Connect with your other teachers that are on the path, that are maybe at the same kind of teaching, same kind of moment within their teaching journey. So maybe you've been teaching for the same amount of time, or you have a similar teaching style or a similar teaching schedule. Get inspired by them, learn from them. Keep listening to your community. They're going to give you all the signs and signals for what they want more of, but also what they want less of. So they're going to let you know when things are starting to get stale or stagnant. They're going to let you know when they want to get deeper into something. So listen to that. Take signs from them. And keep listening to yourself. Keep listening to your innate wisdom, your knowing. It's going to help guide you on this path and help you to pursue what is next and what to leave behind. I'm going to have to wrap it up there. We have run out of time, but those were kind of the bullet points I wanted to get through with you today. I hope that has been informative and insightful. Please leave questions and comments below. Please leave other advice regarding this topic below. I'd love to hear from you and love to know how you are evolving on your teaching journey and what you've learned. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll see some of you tomorrow. I'll be teaching the live class at 10 a.m.